If you are a green card holder and plan to spend an extended period of time outside the US, do not leave the country until you watch this. As a green card holder, you have the right to travel freely in and out of the US, but you are also responsible for maintaining your green card status. This means the US expects you to spend at least 6 months out of every year actually living in the US. If you don't, you risk losing your green card. There's a way around this, and it's called a re-entry permit. A re-entry permit is a travel document that you apply for that lets the US know that you intend to return to the US and are not giving up your green card. Having a re-entry permit means the USCIS has already decided that your travel is not considered abandonment of your legal resident status. By the end of this video, you'll know if you need a re-entry permit, how to apply for one, and how a re-entry permit affects a citizenship application. Let's dive in. For more information like this, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video every Tuesday. So, who needs a re-entry permit? If you leave the US for more than 1 year without a re-entry permit, your green card will no longer be valid to re-enter the country, as it will be assumed that you've abandoned your status. If you leave the US for more than 6 months but less than 1 year, when you come back to the US, you will be heavily questioned at the border as an officer tries to determine if you've been maintaining your status or have abandoned it. In both these situations, a re-entry permit would show that you did not intend to abandon your legal status. If you travel a lot and have a history of long stays outside the US, even if they're less than 6 months, you may benefit from a re-entry permit. In this situation, I would talk to an immigration attorney to see if your repeated travel may cause issues at the border. Sometimes a CBP officer at the border may just tell you that you need a re-entry permit and that your travel is causing an issue, in which case you should absolutely get a re-entry permit. Here are some examples of situations where a re-entry permit would likely be granted. You've decided to pursue a master's program in Australia for 2 years. A family member is seriously ill and you need to go take care of them in your home country. Your current employer wants to transfer you to another office in a different country for a couple of years. Applying for a re-entry permit is pretty simple. You complete and file Form I-131, an application for a travel document. Now, this is very important. You must do this before you leave the country. You must physically be present in the US when you file Form I-131. In this form, you will explain the purpose and dates of your long trip. It is important to stress the temporary nature of your trip.
I want to point out a few quick things on Form I-131. The form itself is pretty straightforward, but this form does have multiple uses. It can be used to apply for a refugee travel document, advance parole, and in your case, a re-entry permit. The first several sections of the form are simply questions about you and your immigration history, and that is pretty straightforward. When you get to Part 4, this is the space where you will describe why it is that you need to be out of the country for such an extended period of time and the country that you intend to be in. Next, you'll see Part 5, which very clearly states that it's only if you're applying for a re-entry permit, so that's you. Part 6 and 7 you will skip because, as you can see, they are not for you. As for what other documents to send with your completed Form I-131, let's take a quick peek at the instructions that come with the form. The USCIS website always has an instruction document with all its forms. Now, as you can see, and not surprising, you need a photo identity document, so I would photocopy the front and back of your green card, your permanent resident card, and send that along, as well as the biographic page of your passport. Now, these instructions do not say anywhere that you need to send a passport photo, but I've been hearing from several attorneys that it's best to do so, that they've been asking for them in interviews, and so generally they've been sending them along with these I-131s as well. Now, while these instructions do not ask for evidence to support your extended travel for a re-entry permit, if you are going abroad for something like university or work and have an enrollment letter or employment letter, then I would attach that to your completed Form I-131. But if you don't have such evidence, that is okay too, and just a detailed reason in the form itself in the section that I showed you is sufficient. The rest of the instructions really don't apply to re-entry permits. They are for people that are applying for refugee travel documents as well as advance parole. So that is it for you.
Then, include a check or money order payable to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security in the amount of $660. This includes your $85 biometrics fee. After that, Mail this along to the appropriate location, which is determined by your state of residence. If you need help figuring out where exactly that is, let me know in the comments and I'd be happy to help you. After you file Form I-131, you will receive a receipt notice from the USCIS in 7 to 14 days. Then you'll get a notice for your biometrics appointment, usually 4 to 6 weeks after filing your application. The biometrics appointment is usually a week or so after you get the biometrics notice, so it comes fairly quick. All in all, on average, it takes 3 to 5 months to get a re-entry permit from the time you apply.
Now, you do not need to be in the US for the entirety of this process. And let me show you what I mean. As you can see on the screen, they're very clear that you have to be physically present in the US when you actually file Form I-131, and then you also have to be physically present in the US for your biometrics appointment. Once this is done, you can leave. On the I-131 form, in Part 3, you can actually designate your re-entry permit to be sent to the embassy or consulate in the country that you're going to be. So let's say you're going to Tokyo, Japan. Here in Part 3, this is the address that you would enter. You would enter the U.S. Embassy or Consulate, enter the city and country, or a DHS office overseas if the town that you are in does not have an embassy or consulate.
So, how long is a re-entry permit valid for? Well, if it's your first time applying for a re-entry permit, you will likely get one that is valid for 2 years. If it's your second time applying for one, it will probably still be valid for 2 years. Thereafter, it's usually 1 year. There is no limit to how many times you can apply for a re-entry permit. However, at some point, the USCIS is going to wonder if you actually have any intentions of ever living in the US. So at some point, it's going to be a problem if you keep renewing re-entry permits year after year. If you're considering a re-entry permit, it's really important to understand how a re-entry permit affects a future citizenship application. In order to apply for U.S. citizenship, green card holders must demonstrate continuous physical presence in the U.S. for 5 years preceding the application, or 3 if you obtain your green card through marriage to a U.S. citizen. This means being present in the U.S. for a minimum of 6 months every year during this 5-year period. While you can preserve your green card through a re-entry permit, absences of 6 months or longer break the required continuity for citizenship. To re-establish your continuity, you would have to come back to the U.S. and reside here for 4 years and 1 day before you would be eligible to apply for naturalization, or 2 years and 1 day if you're subject to the 3-year requirement because you got your green card through a U.S. citizen spouse. Basically, what I'm saying is that the clock resets when you leave the country for such a long period of time. So if you had been in the US on a green card for 3 or 4 years and were just 1 year away from being eligible for citizenship, when you go abroad for a year or 2, that clock resets and you have to come back and reside here for a long period again before you can apply for citizenship. Some applicants may be able to preserve their residence while abroad through Form N-470, but this has very specific criteria and typically applies to people employed by eligible U.S. firms or the U.S. government. If your travel isn't urgent and you've had your green card for 3 or 4 years, it might be worth asking yourself if it's worth it to leave and reset your clock, or postpone your travel, wait a year or 2, apply for citizenship, and then go abroad when you become a U.S. citizen. If you want to learn more about applying for U.S. citizenship, check this video out. Otherwise, if you found this video helpful, hit the like button below, subscribe to our channel, and be sure to share this with your fellow immigrants. See you in the next video.